Right now, as you sit there, you are being read. The person across from you on the train, the stranger who held the door, the one who smiled at you this morning and said, "You look tired." Every one of them ran an analysis on you the instant they saw your face, your posture, the tension in your jaw, the way you carry your weight when you walk. They did it in less than a second, and they didn't ask your permission. Here is the uncomfortable part. Most of them were amateurs. They read you badly, through the fog of their own assumptions, their own fears, their own bad days. And still, they formed a verdict on who you are. And they will treat you according to that verdict for as long as they know you. Now, imagine the few who are not amateurs, the ones who learn to do this on purpose, who can sit across from a man and, before he finishes his first sentence, know his personality, his insecurity, the lens he sees the world through, and the exact thing he's trying to hide. These people are never fooled. They are never blindsided. They are never, and understand this word, managed. Because you cannot manage what you cannot deceive, and you cannot deceive a man who sees clearly. And I need you to hear me. As long as you're an open book to every manipulator, charmer, and salesman who walks into your life, while every human being around you stays a locked door to you, you are at their mercy. You can be flattered, sold, provoked, and led, and you'll never even see the hands on the wheel. That is not strength. That is being blind in a world full of people who can see. So today, I'm going to give you the skill, all of it. The 11 pieces that turn a man from the one being read into the one who reads. The 16 hidden blueprints that almost everyone runs on without knowing it. The invisible lenses installed in you as a child. The secret the psychics have used for 100 years to seem supernatural, and how it's used on you every single day. The onion, the lag, and finally, the body, the one part of a human being that has never, in the history of our species, learned how to lie. Stay with me to the end, because the last piece, the reason all of this matters, is the one nobody tells you. Let's begin. Part 1. Why you have been blind. Let's start with a question that will sting a little. Why is it that you can meet someone and on the spot feel that you dislike them, for no reason you can name, or the opposite? Feel instantly, strangely, that you can trust them before they've done a single thing to earn it? That feeling is not random. That is your mind reading a person faster than your conscious thoughts can keep up. And here is what most people never realize. The words the other person is saying are almost irrelevant to that verdict. Decades of research into how humans communicate landed on a rough breakdown that should stop you cold. When we take in another person, the actual words, the content, the sentences, account for something like 7% of the message we receive. The tone of the voice, maybe 38%. And the body, the face, the posture, the hands, the eyes, over half of everything, more than 50%. Read that again in your mind. When someone speaks to you, more than 90% of what you're actually reading has nothing to do with the words coming out of their mouth, which means the person who only listens to words is deaf to almost the entire conversation. You already know this on some level. You've heard someone say, "I'm fine," and known, instantly, certainly, that they were anything but. You didn't decode it. You felt it. That gut sense, that thing beneath logic, is not weakness or superstition. It is data. It is your oldest instrument for reading people, and most adults have spent 20 years learning to ignore it. We're going to sharpen it instead. And this is the discipline part, so lean in. That instrument has 3 flaws. 3 traps that make almost everyone misread almost everyone. If you don't master these, everything else I teach you today will be corrupted at the source. The first trap is projection. You look at another person and you assume they think the way you think, want what you want, fear what you fear. So a generous man assumes everyone is generous and gets robbed. A liar assumes everyone is lying. We don't see people as they are. We see them as we are, and then we call it insight. The second trap is confirmation bias. Once you've decided what someone is, your mind quietly hunts for evidence that you were right, and it throws away everything that says you were wrong. You decide a man is arrogant, and suddenly every neutral thing he does looks like arrogance. You built a prison for him out of a single first impression, and now he can never get out of it, not because of who he is, but because of how you're looking. The third trap is comparison. We measure others against ourselves, our own habits, our own standards, and anyone who differs, we quietly judge as wrong rather than simply different. This is the fastest way in the world to misjudge a good person. Now here is the deeper principle underneath all of this. 20 centuries ago, the Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by our judgments about things. The event is neutral. The story you tell about it is where the suffering and the error live. Reading people is exactly that principle turned outward. The person is neutral, a set of signals. Your projection, your bias, your comparison, those are the judgments you're smearing on top. To read a person clearly, you must first go quiet inside yourself. You must become neutral. Empty the glass before you pour anyone into it. The master of reading people is, first, a master of not needing to be right about them. Get that discipline, and you're ready for the blueprints. Part 2. The 16 Blueprints. Here's something that will change how you look at every human being you meet for the rest of your life. Personality is not infinite chaos. It runs on architecture. And once you learn to see the architecture, people stop being mysterious and start being legible. There is a framework, you may know it as the 16 types, built on 4 simple switches, 4 dials set differently in every person. Learn these 4 dials, and you can start to place almost anyone. Dial 1, where they draw their energy. Some people are recharged by other people. The room fills them up. Others are drained by it and need to be alone to come back to life. The extrovert and the introvert. This is not about shyness. It's about where the battery charges. Dial 2, how they take in the world. Some people trust what is concrete, facts, details, what they can touch and prove. Others trust patterns, meanings, and possibilities, what things could become, the realist and the visionary. Dial 3, how they decide. Some people decide with the head, logic, cause and effect, what is true. Others decide with the heart, values, harmony, how it affects the people involved, the thinker and the feeler. And I'll tell you now, most conflict between 2 good people is just this dial set in opposite directions. Dial 4, how they run their life. Some people need structure, plans, the decision made and the door closed. Others need openness, options, the freedom to adapt, the planner and the improviser. 4 dials, 2 settings each, 16 combinations, 16 blueprints. Let me show you how they walk into a room, because you'll start recognizing the people in your own life inside the next 5 minutes. First, the quiet architects, the ones who live in logic and strategy, the mastermind who questions everything and builds 10-year plans in silence. The thinker, possibly the most logical mind of all 16, who can smell a lie in a sentence, so never, ever try to deceive one. The commander, the natural-born leader who treats every obstacle as a personal challenge and struggles only when a situation needs feeling instead of force. And the inspector, formal, loyal, built on facts and duty, the person who actually keeps the world running. You'll know these people by this. They get bored by small talk. Their eyes go dead in it. They light up when the conversation gets to ideas. Second, the idealists, the ones who live in meaning and people. The counselor, mysterious, deeply intuitive, guarded until they trust you, and then warm as sunlight. The giver, charismatic and warm, who reads emotions off you like a page, but who quietly needs your approval to feel whole, which is their one great weakness. The champion, bursting with possibility and enthusiasm, who inspires everyone and finishes almost nothing. And the idealist, the perfectionist dreamer, often a writer, who feels everything and struggles to say it out loud. Spot them by this. They care about why, purpose, meaning. They wither in a life that's only about money and status. Third, the sentinels, the pillars, the provider, the social heart of every group, the one organizing the party, remembering the birthday, needing to be needed, the nurturer, endlessly generous, meticulous, giving until it hurts, the supervisor, honest, traditional, dignified, the one who takes charge and hates change, and the inspector again anchors here too, because these are the people who value order, tradition, and doing the right thing above almost everything. They'll ask about your family. They'll notice if you're taken care of. They see duty where others see burden. And fourth, the explorers, the ones who live in the present moment. The craftsmen, quiet, mysterious, endlessly good with their hands and with how things work. The doer, the go-getter who leaps first and fixes the mistake later, who cannot be caged behind a desk. And the performer, the entertainer, alive only in the spotlight, generous and warm and terrified of being ignored. You'll know them instantly. They're the most fun people in the room. They live for right now, and they get restless. The second life becomes routine. Now, I've moved fast, and that's on purpose. Because here's the point that matters more than memorizing all 16. You are not learning this to put people in boxes. You're learning it to answer 3 questions the instant you meet someone. Where does this person get their energy? Head or heart? Structure or freedom? Answer those 3, and you already know how to speak to them, what will win them, and what will make them shut down. Tell a feeler your cold logic, and you'll lose them. Give a thinker your emotional appeal, and they'll dismiss you. Trap an improviser in your rigid plan, and they'll rebel. Reading the type is how you stop talking at people and start talking to them. But before you turn this on the world, turn it on yourself. Which are you? Because every one of these types has a shadow. The giver who needs approval, the champion who never finishes, the commander who can't feel, the idealist who can't speak. You cannot master others until you've seen your own blueprint and made peace with its shadow. Know yourself first. That's the law. Part 3. The invisible lenses. Personality tells you how a person is wired, but it doesn't tell you what they believe. And belief is the second layer. The invisible lens every person is looking through, that they very often cannot see themselves. Think of ideology, and I don't just mean politics, as a set of glasses. A pair of lenses through which a human being views the entire world. Their religion, their politics, their culture, their deepest assumptions about how life should work. And here is the part that should give you a chill. Most people did not choose their lenses. They were installed in childhood. Before you could question anything, you absorbed the beliefs, the myths, the values, the fears of the adults around you, by watching them, copying them, needing their approval to survive. You inherited a worldview the way you inherited an accent. And then you grew up believing it was simply the truth. This is why 2 intelligent, honest people can look at the exact same event and see 2 completely different realities. It isn't that one is stupid. They're wearing different glasses, the religious lens and the secular lens. The lens that says government should protect people, and the lens that says government should get out of the way. The lens of the culture that stands close when it talks, and the one that needs distance. To read a person, truly read them, you have to find their lens. What did they inherit? What community shaped them? What do they treat as sacred, as obvious, as beyond question? Because that unquestioned thing is the exact place where they are most predictable and most controllable. And now flip it, because this cuts both ways. The person who cannot see their own lens is ruled by it. They mistake their conditioning for reality. They defend inherited opinions as if they were their own thoughts. The clear-eyed person isn't the one with no beliefs. It's the one who can take the glasses off, look at them in their hand, and decide, deliberately, whether to put them back on. Reading others is how you learn to spot the lens. Reading yourself is how you finally get to choose it. Now, we've covered how people are wired and what they believe. Next comes the dark art, the one the fortune tellers, the con men, and the charmers don't want you to understand. Because the moment you do, You can never be played by it again. Part 4. The Psychic's Secret. Let me tell you how a stranger can sit across from you, having never met you, and tell you things about your life so specific, so accurate, that you walk out convinced they have a gift from beyond. They don't. There's a name for what they're doing. It's called cold reading, and once you see the machinery, you cannot unsee it. In the psychic, in the salesman, in the recruiter, in the charming stranger at the party who somehow gets you so fast. It rests on one flaw in human nature. We are desperate to believe that we are understood. Hand a person a description vague enough to fit almost anyone, but framed as if it's about them specifically, and their own mind will rush in and fill every blank with real personal detail. Then they'll credit you for the accuracy. Psychologists call it the Forer effect, the Barnum effect. Watch how it's built. Technique 1, the shotgun. Instead of one precise claim, the reader fires a spray of general statements, knowing at least one will hit. I sense a change recently. Something ended, or someone left. Who hasn't had that? The moment your face flickers with recognition, they've found the target. And they lock on. Technique 2, the Barnum statement. You're a strong person, but there's a part of you that others rarely get to see. Sounds deeply personal, applies to every human being alive. You supply the specifics from your own life and never notice you did it. Technique 3, recap and reuse. This is the cruel one. Early in the reading, you let slip a detail, a name, a fact, a fear. The reader files it away, says nothing, and 20 minutes later, they hand it back to you as a revelation. I'm getting the letter M. A woman, close to you. You told them that. You just forgot. And now, you think they're divine. Technique 4, vague enough to backtrack. They say, I'm hearing from your grandfather. And your grandfather is alive. No problem. A grandfather figure then. Someone who was like a grandfather to you. They're never wrong, because they never said anything precise enough to be wrong. Technique 5, reflection. This is why they speak slowly. They're not channeling spirits. They're watching your face, every micro nod, every flinch, every time your breath catches. That's the feedback telling them whether to push forward or steer away. You are running the reading. You just can't feel yourself doing it. And technique 6, they do their homework. The good ones pick their subject before the show even starts. They chat you up beforehand. They check your social media. They gather a file and then perform the miracle of knowing things you never told them in the room. Now, here is why I taught you the con. Because the con is everywhere. This exact machinery, vague flattery, mirroring your reactions, feeding your own words back to you, staying just imprecise enough to never be caught, is running in the sales pitch, in the manipulator's charm, in the life coach who takes your money, in the person who love bombs you and seems to understand you faster than anyone ever has. The feeling of being instantly, deeply understood by someone you just met is not proof of connection. Very often, it is proof that a technique is being used on you. And I'll be honest with you. You could take these 6 techniques and use them on people. Some of you are thinking about it right now. But understand what that makes you. It makes you the exact thing you should be trying to defend yourself from. I'm not teaching you the con so you can run it. I'm teaching you the con so that the next time someone runs it on you, you feel the machinery turning, you smile, and you walk away with your money, your heart, and your mind still your own. You cannot be sold what you can already see through. Part 5. The onion and the baseline. So how do you actually read a specific person, deliberately, methodically, instead of just reacting to them? You profile them. And profiling starts with a picture, the onion. Every person you meet is an onion of 4 layers. The skin is what they show the world, the surface, the small talk, the polite performance. It's real, but it's thin. Everyone gets to see the skin. The second layer is what people who know you get, colleagues, classmates, the people time and repetition have earned their way past your guard. The third layer is intimacy, the marriage, the best friend, the layer built on trust, where the secrets and the fears finally come out, and the core, the very center, is the part every human being keeps for themselves alone. The thoughts shared with no one, the truths they can barely admit to themselves. Reading a person is the slow work of moving inward through those layers. And most people never get past the skin of anyone, including the people they've lived with for years. When you learn to move deeper, deliberately, you understand people at a level they've almost never been understood. That is a rare and powerful gift. It is also a responsibility. Handle the core of a human being with care. But here is the single most important concept in all of profiling, the one that separates real reading from parlor tricks. It's called the baseline. You cannot detect a lie or stress or hidden anger in a vacuum. You can only detect a deviation from someone's normal. So before you look for the tell, you have to learn the person's ordinary. How do they sit when they're relaxed? How fast do they normally talk? Where do their eyes go when nothing's wrong? That resting state is the baseline. Then, and only then, you watch for the break. The moment the fast talker goes quiet, the moment the still hands start to fidget, the moment the steady voice climbs half a step. The lie is not in the behavior. The lie is in the change. This is why amateurs are wrong so often. They read a nervous man as a liar, when nervousness is his baseline. They read a calm liar as honest, because they never learned his calm was the mask he always wears. Establish the baseline first, always. It's the frame that makes every other signal mean something. And once you have the baseline, the details start to speak. The way a person treats a space they control, their desk, their home, their car, tells you how they carry order inside. The words they reach for tell you their education, their insecurities, whether they're building themselves up or covering something. The way they react to the unexpected, a spilled drink, an interruption, shows you who they are when the performance drops for half a second. None of these are proof on their own. Every one of them is a thread. Read the person as a whole cloth, never as a single thread. We're about to see exactly why that rule can save you from your worst misjudgments. Part 6. The Lost Art of Listening. Here is a number that explains almost every failed conversation you've ever had. The average person speaks at somewhere around 175 to 200 words a minute. But the human brain can process speech at 600 to 1,000 words a minute. Sit with that gap. When someone is talking to you, your mind is running 3, 4, 5 times faster than they can speak, which means, for most of every conversation, your brain has enormous spare capacity. And it does not sit idle. It wanders, it drifts, it gets bored, and worst of all, it starts rehearsing your reply before the other person has finished their thought. There's a term for that dead space between hearing a word and actually understanding it. The lag. And the lag is where listening goes to die. In that gap, most people stop receiving the other person entirely and start listening to themselves. It gets worse, and you've done both of these. Confirmation bias in listening, where you grab only the parts of what they said that match what you already believed, and let the rest fall away. And competitive listening, where you disagree so fast, so early, that you stop listening the moment they say something you don't like, and spend the rest of the conversation loading your rebuttal. At that point, the conversation is already over. 2 people are talking, nobody is listening, it's just 2 monologues taking turns. So here is the discipline. And it is a discipline, one of the hardest of all the self-masteries. The greatest skill in all of communication is not speaking. It's not wit. It's not charm. It's listening to understand, instead of listening to reply. That means keeping the mind open when everything in you wants to argue. It means catching the whole shape of what someone is saying, instead of pouncing on the details. It means not interrupting, letting them finish, all the way finish, before you form your response. And it means this, which is the deepest move of all. When someone says something you disagree with, instead of building your counterattack, you ask yourself, why might this be true? What would the world have to look like from where they're standing for them to believe this? The moment you do that, something changes that you can't fake. You step out of your own reality and into theirs. You see the situation through their glasses. Remember the lenses. And from inside their view, you finally understand not just what they said, but why a whole human being would say it. That is the closest thing to reading a mind that actually exists. And it costs you nothing but your ego and your silence. The man who has mastered himself can afford both. Part 7. The Body That Cannot Lie. We come now to the loudest signal of all, and the one almost nobody is trained to hear. The words are 7%. The body is more than half. And, unlike the mouth, which learns to lie before we even lose our baby teeth, the body never fully learns. It leaks, it betrays, it tells the truth a fraction of a second before the words come out to cover it. Let me hand you the alphabet. But first, the 2 rules that keep you from becoming a fool with this knowledge. Rule 1. Read clusters, never single signals. Crossed arms alone mean nothing. The room might be cold. Crossed arms plus a turned-away torso plus a tight jaw plus short answers. Now you have a message. 1 signal is noise. A cluster is a sentence. Rule 2. Read against the baseline and in context. Always. We just built that frame. Don't abandon it now. Now. The alphabet. The face. A researcher named Paul Ekman found that a handful of core emotions show up on the human face the same way everywhere on Earth, across every culture, every language, every corner of the planet. Anger, fear, joy, sadness, surprise, disgust. These are not learned, they are universal. Which means the truth of what a person feels flashes across their face for an instant, even when they slam the mask back down a moment later. Learn to catch that instant. The eyes. The oldest saying about reading people is that the eyes are the window to the soul, and it survives because it's true. Steady eye contact usually signals interest and attention, but held too long, it turns to threat. Breaking away can mean discomfort, distraction, or something being hidden. Rapid blinking often means stress. And the pupils, the one signal almost impossible to fake, can widen with genuine interest and attraction. The eyes give away what the person most wants to conceal. The mouth, pressed, tightened lips, distaste, disapproval, holding something back, lip biting, anxiety, worry. A hand drifting up to cover the mouth. Often the body trying to physically hold in a reaction it doesn't want you to see. And the smile, which can be pure joy, or can be the most practiced lie in the human repertoire. The real one reaches the eyes, the fake one stops at the lips, the hands and the gestures. But be careful here. This is where culture rules everything. The thumbs up, the OK sign, the V of 2 fingers. These mean approval in one country and something crude or hostile in another. Never read a gesture without knowing where the person is from. A signal misread across cultures isn't insight. It's just a new way to be wrong. The arms and legs. Arms crossed over the chest. A barrier, defense, closing off. Hands planted on the hips. Control, readiness, sometimes aggression. Fidgeting, tapping, restless feet. Impatience, boredom, the body trying to leave a place the mouth is too polite to leave. The posture. Open posture. Torso exposed, body relaxed and turned toward you, reads as warmth, honesty, willingness. Closed posture, hunched, folded, shrunk down, reads as anxiety, hostility, or retreat. Watch the whole frame of a person, not just the head, and the space. An anthropologist named Edward Hall mapped the invisible bubbles we live inside. Intimate distance, inches, reserved for those we love. Personal distance, a couple of feet, for friends and family. Social distance, several feet, for acquaintances and colleagues. Public distance, the space of the stage and the lecture hall. Watch how close a person chooses to stand to you, and your reading in real time, exactly how they think you two relate. Long before they'd ever say it out loud. Put it together. The face, the eyes, the mouth, the hands, the posture, the space. Read as a cluster, against the baseline, in context. And a person becomes, in the truest sense, an open book, written in a language they don't even know they're speaking. You'll never watch a conversation the same way again. Part 8. The Wonder. So, what is it all for? Because I need to close the loop I opened at the very beginning, and I promised you the last piece was the one nobody tells you. Some of you have been listening this whole time thinking about power, about getting the edge, using this to win, to sell, to control. And you could. But if that's all you take from this, you've missed it entirely. Here is what reading people actually gives the person who masters it. It gives you the end of most of your conflicts, because you finally understand that the person who clashes with you isn't evil. They're just a different blueprint, a different lens, a different dial setting. It gives you better decisions, because you can tell who to trust, who to build with, who to keep at social distance, and never let inside. It gives you the right relationships and the right work, because you finally know your own type, your own shadow, your own truth, and you stop forcing yourself into lives that were never built for your wiring. And it gives you the one thing that matters most. It makes you unmanipulable. The person who reads clearly cannot be conned. They see the shotgun and the Barnum statement for what they are. They cannot be provoked. They recognize the button being pushed and simply decline to be pushed. They cannot be deceived, because the body always tells them the truth the mouth is trying to hide. They cannot be managed, handled, played, or sold. A person who cannot be deceived, provoked, or controlled walks through the world differently, not because they're cold, not because they trust nobody, but because nothing false can get inside them anymore. They move through a world full of people trying to read them and manage them, and they stay, simply and quietly, clear. That was the promise at the start. The one being read learns to read, and in learning to read everyone else, clearly, honestly, without projection or bias or the need to be right, they finally, for the first time, learn to read the one person they'd been blind to the longest, themselves. Start there. Take a personality test this week. Find your own blueprint before you profile a single soul. Watch one conversation tomorrow with the sound off in your mind, and just read the body. And the next time someone makes you feel instantly, magically understood, pause. Ask why. Ask what they're doing. Master yourself first. Then the world becomes legible. If this gave you a new pair of eyes, subscribe and stay. We're building something here that most people will never have the discipline to finish. Tell me in the comments, which of the 16 are you? And which trap, projection, confirmation bias, or comparison has cost you the most? I'll read everyone, because by now, reading people is what I do. Until next time.